Hello, Laura Calder here, on YouTube for the first time in a long time, and I'll tell you why. I've started a newsletter on my website, lauracalder.com. You can sign up for free if you like. I'll put the link below. And I promised my subscribers that I would respond to their letters to me via video so that we could all share in the conversation. This is my husband, Peter, who's going to help me launch this thing.
In my capacity as a professional journalist.
Right.
Yeah. The first question has no name attached, and it's because a lot of people asked it, and it kind of makes sense for the times we're living through. What do you do when you get sick of your own cooking?
Good question. I've asked it because I too have got sick of my cooking. Have you got sick of my cooking?
Oh.
Give the right answer. So there are a few things I've done. One is because I cook mostly in a sort of Western cooking, French and English, American, Italian. We have in the past year explored other cuisines. So it's not a sort of every night of the week thing, but when we need a holiday from the kind of food we usually make, we've gone to find Chinese recipes, Vietnamese recipes, Thai recipes, and we'll continue to explore. And that's been really, really fun. We found some good stuff. Mm-hmm. We've also bought some ingredients we've never bought before. Millet was one, and you can find other things like salt cod or plantains, something you're not used to, and then learn how to make it. And that can be fun too. I've done kind of occasionally crisper drawer challenges where I go in and find stuff that's sort of trailing around and needs to be used up. That includes stuff in the cupboard like tins of mackerel and things that have been around for a year. And I challenge myself with these ingredients to come up with something completely new. And well, the last thing is really inspiration from you, because Peter's been doing project cooking, like making bacon and making butter. And I think it was your idea to say, okay, we've got to make some kind of classic, do something that's a challenge. And so last week we did a lobster bisque from scratch. And it was kind of like turning the kitchen into a classroom, because it wasn't about having to get dinner on the table. It was about being together in the kitchen and having a good time learning something, wouldn't you say?
We learned a lot.
And we learned a lot.
We learned a lot about it.
And it was delicious.
It's somewhat gruesome, but...
Somewhat gruesome. Anyway, those were some ways, and if you have other ways, please put them in the comments below, because we've been asking that question just as much as you have.
Well, the next question is from Judith. It's kind of a long one, so we'll do it in bits. But the essential story is that she brought a new cookbook, and there were herbs and spices in it that she didn't normally have on hand. The first part of the question is, what are the herbs and spices that everyone should have in their arsenal?
Yeah, I don't think there's of course there are common spices. The ones you see at your grocery store are probably the ones that are common to the cuisines where you live. So that's one guide. But really it depends on what kind of things you cook. And by the way, I understand your feeling with your new cookbook, because I got a new cookbook too at one point, and it wanted a lot of spices I didn't have. And I found myself one day crossing town to get a 1/4 teaspoon of fenugreek. Of course, I had to buy a whole bag of it. Well, then I put it in the dish. I couldn't even taste it. And then I was stuck with this big bag of fenugreek that I didn't know what to do with or really want to use again. So I would say just buy as you go, getting the things that you know you're really going to use. And if you need to branch out. And if you're branching out, buy them as small as you can the first time.
How do you store them? What's the best way to store them and keep them?
Well, they need to be away from heat, moisture, air, and any dampness. So, I don't know, I have a whole bunch of metal canisters. They're all the same size. They all look the same. I've got them labeled. And they can be out because it's not glass. But if you're in glass jars, you need to be in a cupboard.
How long do they last? How long do they stay effective?
I think they last like a year or 2 years. It depends. If whole spices last longer than ground ones. But they don't go off. It's not like they're going to poison you. It's just they lose their oomph. Mm-hmm. If you smell one, it has no scent. It's probably time to chuck it.
And here's the most difficult question. How do you organize them so you can find them when you need them? I mean, everyone's spice rack is pretty much...
Don't tell anybody how I organize mine. Spices are notoriously chaotic, and it's just like a closet. You know, you get it all perfectly organized, and then somehow, you know, you're reaching and grabbing while you're cooking, and you have to put them back quickly. they get messed up and you have to start again. So I did have an aunt once who had all of hers in alphabetical order, which is of course what the grocery stores do too. And that helps if you can figure out how to do it. I haven't yet. I do have one other organizing tip though, because of herbs. We have a herb drawer in the fridge. It's really a big Tupperware thing. And whenever I buy fresh herbs, I put them all in there so that when I need one, I'm not rooting around in different little bags. I just get out that box, the herb box, and boom, everything's in it.
Last question is from Nadine. It's a little bit unusual, but also quite beautiful. I was wondering if you would ever talk about loss or grief. You always seem to manage through life in such a positive way. With all the craziness going on, I feel like loss is common right now. Loss of jobs, experiences, friendships, dreams, even death. How do you cope?
Yeah, I don't always. But let me think about that. I'm not an expert in grief. I appreciate the question, though. It's nice to expand our topics here. I have come to a point in my life where I try to see any kind of painful experience or burden as not necessarily as a gift, but as a job to do. And if the universe lands a job like that on us, we have to trust that it thinks we can handle it. Even if we don't think we can handle it, it does. So I try to say, okay, this is a journey I'm being put on, and it's up to me to take responsibility for it. The thing to remember is that although you're on that journey kind of alone, like you're on a quest, and it could take years, you're allowed to have friends along the way, to meet people who can help you, and to just like being accompanied down a road for a while by someone who then drops off and someone else comes along. So don't be afraid to get, there are resources out there, counselors, books, friends, various communities that can give help. And I think it's the thing is not to try to do it all alone in your house. Another thing, this I sort of learned about so recently, it was even just this morning, but I was listening to someone talking about nature and our connection to nature, because a lot of us feel isolated, especially now, and lonely, and we think the answer is to stay connected on electronics. But apparently nature is a fantastic way to rebalance your system and get yourself in touch, and that it really helps with loneliness. And ironically, it's when you're in nature alone that you get that feeling of connectedness again. So don't forget to spend time in nature too. I appreciate that you think I get through things so positively. I haven't always. I've had some pretty dark passages, but I'm in a good space now, and if I have this good energy, I'm happy to share it here and in the newsletter. So if you'd like to get that, it's on lauracalder.com. You can sign up. I'll give the link below. I'll be doing these videos regularly, hopefully with my sidekick. And so if you'd like to get notifications for those, please sign up to this too. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Such a nice guy.